introduce yourself to the camera, first and last name. Tell us what school we're at and the grade you're teaching in.
Should I say like, hi, I'm Diana, or?
Yeah, just hi, Diana, last name. I'm with,
Owen Elementary.
School. Yeah.
You ready?
Ready.
Hi, I'm Diana Dongarra. I'm from Owen Elementary School, and I teach kindergarten.
Great. All right, you ready for the first batch?
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit and year. First question, how does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge?
For the past few weeks, we've been learning about what it means to be special and each other's identity. And we focused on ourselves and what makes us us, and then what makes you you. And so the first few weeks we talked about just themselves. They drew pictures of themselves, they understood, what special characteristics they have. And now we're to the point where we're taking it within the text. And so the point of this lesson was for them to realize what identity is, and then use what they know to compare two characters who have different identities, but then also can be compared to the same.
Great. That's good. What was taught before this lesson and what will come after it?
Before this lesson, we talked about identity and what it means to be unique and what it means to have the different characteristics of a person. And then we, like I said, went into the text and talked about evidence from the text to pull from and talk about identity. From here on out, we're also going to spend some time talking about comparing and contrasting identities within the classroom. The main goal of this is to kind of think about, 5-year-olds have that little bubble where they kind of just think about themselves, and we want them to go, think about themselves, think about their classmates, and then take it to the real world.
Great. I'm going to have you put the...
Here?
Yeah, just
okay.
put it by your leg. You can put it closer. It might... Okay. In case it falls. Okay, good. You're doing good. How do you feel?
Fine.
Okay. This is the easy part, right?
Yeah.
Is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of text designed to build skills and knowledge?
I chose this text because it really focused on just two characters, and they could really zone in on the two characters' identity and really understand that even though their identities are different, they're still the same, and it's what makes the world unique. It's not a part of a text set. It's just a supplement to kind of help zone in on that teaching focus.
And then part of this question is, if so, please give an example of other texts that form this sequence. Want to move on?
Well, we've talked a lot about. I'm just kind of thinking in my head, but we've
Sure.
talked a lot about books that I like me. Everyone's different, or what I like about me. So, and now we're kind of bridging it. I don't know if that.
You want to talk a little bit specifically about that?
I could. Say this question again?
Okay, so the whole question is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of texts designed to build skills and knowledge? If so, please give an example of other texts that form this sequence.
The texts that we started off with this unit, fictional and informational, really talk about just someone else's or their identity. So what I like about me, or the body book, or kind of just zoning in on one person and their characteristics. This book kind of bridges the gap because it takes it one step further, and it talks about two characters and two identities. So the students are asked to, focus on one identity of the character, the other identity, and put them together and kind of start to think and continue to understand that everyone's different and unique and special.
Great. Talk about the standards targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard?
I have
the list of them?
Yeah.
So whatever you're comfortable with. Some people list them, and talk
And
briefly
talk about-
about them, or again, however you want to.
With this lesson, there were a lot of standards targeted. Starting off with reading, I talked a lot about the RLK2, which asked students to recall and talk about familiar stories and include key details. So we had read this story previously, and I was asking them to remember what we had read and recall and be able to talk about it with a partner. And that kind of piggybacks off of another standard that's targeted in this lesson. It's with the speaking and listening. And speaking and listening, SL6 talks about how you have to speak audibly and clear so that your partner in small groups and large groups can understand you. And then we also focused on RLK4, which talks about asking and answering questions of unknown words. So prior to this lesson, we had read this story, and I took apart some of the words that they might not have known about, and we talked about and used them within the text so that they would understand when they got to this part and they were working with their partners. They really understood the material they were using. Another standard that was targeted was the RLK9, and this standard talks about being able to compare and contrast characters. And I feel like this standard is really targeted because the students have to really understand each character and be able to compare and contrast them. And then RLK10 is just actively engaging in group discussions with text. And I feel like this entire lesson really focused on the text, and I really tried to use the evidence from the text, and they were within the text and hands on the text. That's why I wanted them all to have a copy within their partners. They could really manipulate, turn the pages, talk to their partner, and use the language we've been using to communicate their message.
Good. You're doing good.
Thanks.
Okay, next question on this is, which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies, and why? Okay, I'll read it again if you want. Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies, and why?
The first core action 1, where you have to focus the lesson on the high quality text, I really feel as though this lesson exemplifies that because the students were working hands-on with the text. They were working in partners. They were able to manipulate and turn the pages and talk about the text and use the text to support their thinking. And the text was above their level, so it was high quality text. We talked about how they could read the words, look at the pictures, and really utilize all the aspects of the text. Core action 2, I tried to touch upon when I was asking questions in whole group and trying to get them to stretch their thinking and provide evidence from their text to support their thinking and build off of each other, the different questions. And then core action 3, I feel was touched upon as well because students had the opportunity to engage and work the whole time during the lesson. There was only a short time we were working as a whole group, kind of talking, starting the lesson, and then from there on out, I had them really hands-on and working with each other and having a chance to express and talk about the book that we were using.
Next set of questions. We're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your instruction. First question, discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS. Do you want me to pause for a minute?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Maybe if you pause for just a second.
Okay.
When I'm planning my lessons, I really make sure to have the 3 shifts with Common Core in mind. And for this lesson, I really touched upon the providing evidence from the text. We were hands-on with the text. The students had the opportunity to manipulate and talk about and use words from the text, improve their thinking. And I'm really trying with all of my lessons this year to really zone in and having them provide evidence to support their thinking. Why do you think this? I always try to stretch their thinking. And then when I incorporate different text into the lessons, I always try to make sure it's of that high quality and complex so that students are pushed and continue to build upon their knowledge and use the text to develop their thinking.
How did you teach the content of this lesson or this text prior to the CCSS? What is the same and what's different?
In the past, I would focus a lot on what they knew. So before I would start a lesson, I would say, what's in your head already? What's your schema? What do you know about this? And I've really found that it's all about getting that evidence from the text and to use the text to support their thinking. I've really tried to have them develop an opinion and then take it one step further. Why do you feel this way? What made you feel this way from the text? So that they're working with the materials that they have and not always just kind of guessing and relating it to their lives, but taking it strictly from the text. Also, in the shift one, working on that informational text, I've really tried to incorporate that into my lessons. Not only just during science and social studies, but during math, during ELA block, during reading and writing, have the opportunity to compare and contrast and use informational text to pull knowledge and gain evidence from the text. And then using high quality. I always tried to, in the past, maybe match what was appropriate to them, but realizing that it's okay to push them a little step further and to have them have a bridge to kind of get to where they're striving to understand and learn the text and have that high quality books.
Okay. So next group of questions. Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. First question, how did you support all students in working with grade level text? For example, how did you provide scaffolding for students below grade level so they can read at grade level text?
For the students that are not necessarily at the point where they're able to understand and read and interpret the text that we used, I really rely on them using the pictures. I also, when I planned this lesson, because they were using text that was high quality and not everyone could read it just yet, I partnered them high and low. So, a lot of times with partners, it's different, but I thought this was a good scaffold so that the higher level partner could kind of push the lower level and they could talk together, and then that lower level was getting that word and knowledge and use from the higher level student, and then the higher level student was able to help and explain and model. So it was kind of like a hand-in-hand situation.
Okay, good. How did you create opportunities for students who are advanced to engage more deeply with grade level or above grade level text?
As I was walking around, and the first part of the activity when they got in partners was to look at the text, flip through the pages, and start to talk about what was the same and different. I really wanted them conversing with each other. And then for those that were ready, I asked them to take it one step further, and some of them were starting to write their ideas and opinions onto the Post-its. So they weren't just simply placing them on the pages, but they were explaining and expressing their thoughts and supporting their ideas.
How do you know that the students were able to successfully respond to the text-dependent questions and tasks with precision?
As I was walking around and interacting with the partners, I was really asking them questions, and almost 100% of them were able to identify same and different, and they really were able to see the concrete similarities and differences between the two characters, and I felt like they were really honing in on the examples and were using them and kind of bridging the gaps that they might have had and talking to each other.
Did students acquire the literary skills addressed in this lesson?
I do believe that they did, because they were able to engage in conversation, they were working the whole time, and they were able to compare and contrast the two characters, which was one of the main goals, and talk about and pinpoint the identities, and then talk about how even though they're different, they're still the same, and they were able to understand that in the end.
What did you do for students who did not acquire the literary skills addressed in the lesson?
As I was walking around helping partners, I would, sit and talk with them and kind of help them when necessary. I have one student who's ELL, and so language is difficult for him. And so I sat with him for a while, and him and his partner, and we looked at the pictures and we did some matching and identifying so that he can participate in the conversation and pinpoint the same and difference. So we spotted, something that was different, and I would, point to both pictures so that he could visually see, oh yes, that is different. And then we talk about what was the same.
You're almost there. You're doing good. Which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson? And what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Core action 3?
Yeah.
From the beginning of the year, we've really focused on what it means to be engaged in our work. And I feel that that has helped with Core Action 3 because they've had multiple opportunities in partners and small groups and large groups with different partners, with different small groups, to work together on different lessons and understand what it means to be a partner, understand that, it's necessary to have eye contact and take turns and be a responsible listener. So I feel like that's helped them learn how to be engaged and work hands-on with the materials. Because especially in kindergarten, you need to understand how to be a student first before they can tackle the materials and the ideas that I'm trying to express to them and teach them. They need to understand what it means to participate and collaborate with others and work and be engaged in the activities that I'm providing.
Would you like to comment on any of the students' submitted work? Was there something that delighted you or surprised you with this work?
I overall was pleased as I walked around and surveyed how the partners were doing. I like the idea that I beforehand pre-selected the partners. I feel like the partnering worked well. As they were working on the paper task, I thought that they were engaged and they were either drawing pictures or writing words to express their thoughts and use the evidence from the text. I was happy to see that the partners were working together and taking turns, and a gentle reminder got them right back on track. You could do a box, then they could do a box and take turns and both be engaged.
Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrate in this lesson and what you would improve upon. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked particularly well and what might you do differently?
When I was planning this lesson, I started off by thinking we could work whole group and then talk about identity and then take it to where they could each have a copy of the text and talk about things that were the same, things that were different, and then use Post-its to mark it. And then originally I had planned for them to come back whole group and then have the books in hand and be able to talk and converse and then move on to a Venn diagram where they would write and talk about similarities and differences. As I was gauging the group and watching them interact with their partners, I was noticing that I didn't think at this time of the year they were ready to sit and talk about the text with it in their hands. I thought that they would be distracted. I didn't think that they could handle it just at this time. It's something that I want to strive to. I want them to be able to have, things in their hand while we're at the carpet and working hands-on and being able to converse and still not be too distracted. Also, I decided to kind of do that bridging activity because I wasn't sure if the kids would be able to do the Post-its on the book right to the Venn diagram because Venn diagrams are a new concept for us. So I thought about the activity of having them note the things that were the same and different. Same on one side, different, they had to flip the paper. Then what I want to do is in another lesson later this week is I'm going to take it one step further and use that brainstorming sheet to then do the Venn diagram. And I decided not to rush it and do the Venn diagram during this lesson because I just felt like I wouldn't get quality work from them. I felt I could sense from the room they were starting to zone out, and asking them to do another paper pencil task wouldn't have worked. If I could go back I would have made sure that everyone had their name on the brainstorming sheet because it was hard. I wanted them to get in a bigger circle and talk small group. And they didn't remember, even though it was 5 seconds ago, what paper was theirs. So that was a little bit of frustration for me. And if that would have went a little smoother, I might have tried doing a whole class Venn diagram using the brainstorming sheet. But I was just sensing the energy in the room and decided that it would be best to get more quality work and wait till a later lesson to complete it.
Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors or reactions?
5-year-olds always surprise me just because their behaviors are always different. Every day is a new adventure, and that's why I love the grade level. I do have a particular student that does give me a lot of behavior issues quite frequently, and I had talked to him a couple times throughout the lesson. His behavior of, crying and going behind the easel didn't surprise me, and he does that quite frequently. So what I have found works best for him is I let him kind of cool off, and when he's ready, he joins us. And that's what happened when I got them into their, smaller groups. I said, when you're ready, you can come join. He said, I'm ready. So that didn't surprise me. When we were doing whole group towards the end, I was a little surprised by a few kids who were, playing with their hands and kind of talking to each other. But it's something that I'll just have to continue to work on and redirect and praise the positive behavior and encourage positive listening while we're doing whole group discussions. It's December and we're still, in the process of learning how to be a student, so we can relapse from time to time.
You're done.
Yay!
Good job.
Thanks.
Really good interview, and it